T formation. And he did. His son, Billy, was a quarterback. And I said, all these years that I played, and everybody played behind Coach Meredith, ran that stupid single wing, and now he's running a T formation. I could not believe it.
So you didn't think much of that single wing?
Well, I watched a few games, and I just liked the T formation because I wanted to play quarterback. And I just thought, man, I'd love to play quarterback from a T formation.
Right.
But we ran.
Your job was blocking in the single wing.
But they would center it directly to the fullback. He would fake it to the full halfback coming around and spin and do a 360 and go right back into the middle of the line. We did it quick. You had to, because, you know, they're going to recover and meet you right in the gap if you're slow. But I don't know what the play was called.
The single wing is a power
Yeah.
offense. It's
Yeah.
not any fooling anybody or
Right.
anything. You
I mean, if we ran off tackle around the end, my gosh, you had the quarterback, you had the right halfback, you had the fullback blocking for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like student body right or
Yeah.
student body left or up the gut.
and a lot of times the guard would be moved over. You know,
Mhm.
you'd have a strong side.
Unbalanced line.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you-
And Lyle Underwood said every once in a while you got to run like a tight end reverse or something like that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
we had a reverse there once in a while, and as Coach Meredith say, you got to keep them honest, you know.
But I tell you, you need the large players when you're playing the single wing.
Right.
And there I was, 165 pounds, and the guy that's usually on a tackle on the other side, you know how tackles are usually larger than everybody else. Well, they was always around 200, 220 or something. Of course, we did good with them, really. In fact, when I played, W.L. Smith he ran behind me. He was a halfback, and I was the end. And I remember a lot of times I'd tell him, I can block this guy. You don't need to help me. See, he was supposed to help me with the tackle, and a lot of times I didn't need him because it seemed like back then the larger the guy was, the easier it was to block. He was just a big old fat guy. But now that's all changed. Don't get me wrong. But that's the way it seems. But if you had a guy over there about your same size, he'd get a pretty good fight to you.
I know, like Larry said, we worked together, and if somebody knew that they could handle their man, it would free up somebody that's supposed to help them. And we communicated among ourselves or among the players.
Right.
And I don't ever remember anybody even getting in a scuffle or fight or anything. I mean, we just depended on each other to survive back then. I mean, we didn't have all the razzle-dazzle plays that they have now, and the open offense and spreads and everything else. But
Bubba Marriott talked to us about when he was, I guess, 6th, 7th grade. He said folks would come to hear Coach Meredith halftime, particularly when y'all hadn't done good in the first. Tell us about some of Coach Meredith's halftime rants.
well, I told you about the time in Robertsdale, he kicked me in the seat. But he would let you know in a hurry that if you had done something wrong. And of course, he tried to tell you how to correct it, but he had his own method of relating it to you.
He was a big man, and you'd expected him to have a big voice, but it was very shrill. You wouldn't believe the voice he had for the size he was.
Well, he must have been a really popular man, because I was looking at some of those yearbooks. I think the time he was here, 3 of the yearbooks were dedicated to him. Would y'all say he was a pretty popular guy on campus?
Oh, I'd say he was,
yeah. He was about as popular on campus as Mr. McGowan was not popular.
I tell you, that guy had more control over
Oh, I mean,
a school than anybody I've ever seen in my life. You could walk in that auditorium, you couldn't hear it thunder with
It'd
all the
be
people just
noise everywhere.
everywhere talking
He
and
opened that
everything.
door
Opened
on
that
the
door,
side,
didn't
walked
even
in
have
there.
to say a word, just walk in there and cut them eyes across there. You could have dropped a pin anywhere in there and heard it.
Well, you could-
Unreal.
he would leave the office going down the corridor, and the word would just, Mr. McGowan's coming, Mr. McGowan's coming. I mean, I'll
I
never
was telling
forget.
Bud the other day, I got sent up to his office one time, and I was sitting in there, and he'd come in, and he'd look over at me. I was scared to death, but he didn't ever say anything. He'd go out, he'd look at me as we went out, you know. And finally, after coming in and out a number of times, he sent me back to the room. But he didn't have to say anything. He scared me so bad.
He scared everybody.
I'll never, if my mother knew I did this, she would probably kill me. But we had a break before English class, like a morning recess, 10 or 15 minutes. Well, a bunch of us was in the English class, Mrs. Burns' class, and it was during that 10 or 15 minute break. Well, some of us got the idea of getting rubber bands, and we took these gym clips and we straightened them out, and we'd shoot them off the blackboard, and it'd make a crazy sound. Bobby Simo was standing there, quiet. He never said a word, nothing. We kept coaching old Bobby. Shoot one, Bobby. Now, come on, nobody's gonna see you. So we finally convinced him to let one fly. Well, he just let it fly, and it shoom off the blackboard. Well, guess who walks in behind Simo? Mr. McGowan. He said, "Simo, what you doing?" And he just wilted away. We couldn't get him to do a thing after that.
But if he was the principal today, he'd have a heart attack the first day.
Yeah.
I guarantee he wouldn't last.
I was talking with Ina Sunday afternoon. We were talking about the meeting and everything with y'all, and I told her then, I said, if he was a principal now, like Edson said, he would have had a heart attack, or he would have been sued by the ACLU or other things. Plus, he would not have the support of the fathers and mothers.
Yeah.
Back then, if you got sent to the office,
Right.
and your parents knew about it, you got a whipping or something at home. They never come up to Mr. McGowan and said, "Hey, jump on him." If you got in trouble at school, you got in trouble at home when you got home. But nowadays, I mean, I don't know how the teachers do it, but back then you didn't question Mr. McGowan. He was principal, and we respected him, and not. Like Larry
we sure
said,
did.
you
I
didn't say
still
a
do.
word to him, and he didn't say a word to you.
How involved was Mr. McGowan in the football program?
Quite a bit when I goofed up. Yeah, that was my fault, but he made me go down there and apologize, and I did, and I was sure sorry of it, but it should have never happened.
You know, when we would win, that's the nearest thing I ever saw that he almost come close to smile. He wouldn't smile, but he would just, you could tell that everything was okay with Mr. McGowan.
How about Ariel Smith? I guess he was a teacher when y'all were here and later became principal.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all remember anything about
Very good teacher.
Yeah.
I had biology and he was very, very.
Biology teacher.
I remember when I first started teaching at Foley on Halloween night, we had to stand watch. Each of the teachers had a 2-hour deal they had to stand. And I've forgotten who the principal was. I think it was Mr. Smith. Well, what we were watching out for was kids coming back and doing damage to the school. I think it was the Sudi boy. I'd forgotten what his first name was. He was very smart. Dickie Sudi. He and somebody else had gone out and got one of these old toilets, loaded it on something, brought it back up here, was going to dump it right here on the campus. Well, about the time they got ready to dump it, Mr. Smith said, "Boys, just keep it on there and take it back where you got it from."
Sounds just like him.
Well, Mr. Smith, I guess, lived in on that corner house that later became a principal's house, didn't he? The
Yeah,
old
I
Holmes
believe he
house.
did.
Yeah. And Mr. McGowan lived in the one right
Coach Pikett's house? The one that.
Yeah, that's right. It was here.
Okay.
She was,
Yeah.
and,
Mr. McGowan lived in Mom and Daddy's old house. you said.
Right.
And did Mr. Rich, you may remember, you may have been teaching, did Mr. Rich live
He
there at any
lived, no,
point
he
in time?
lived down.
he lived in
He
Mango
was staying down
Springs,
his-
didn't he?
He was a good principal too. He was a very good principal. You know, he was a World War II veteran. He was at D-Day.
Yeah.
And,
You know, I look back over the years, I think we've had some really good principals
yeah,
at
yeah.
Foley High School.
Yeah.
Way back even before I can really, I mean, I was in grammar school, but look back over the years, most of them were really, they just thought a lot, and they worked with the teachers, and they worked with thought of the kids too, you know.
What's the thing doing this history project? I mean, we've had some quality people come through Foley High School. I mean,
You know,